I'd like to call this May 19th, 2011 Cookeville City Council meeting to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Anderson,
Present.
Councilman Woodford,
Present.
Mayor Swallows,
Present.
Vice Mayor Epps.
Here.
Councilman Albright,
Present.
all present.
Thank you. Now would everyone please stand for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Goodness. Jumping the gun there, wasn't it?
All right. Item 1, consider approval of agenda as presented. Do you have any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
No changes. Seeing none? Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Ask for the vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. On to the old business. Item 2, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on May 5th, 2011.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. All vote.
Oops.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Your teacher wasn't paying attention. On to item 3. Consider on second and final reading ordinance 110405, amendments to the zoning code relating to bed and breakfast establishments in RS zones. Sponsors, Mr. James Mills.
Mayor and council members, the ordinance before the council would amend the zoning code to allow bed and breakfast establishments in the RS10, RS15, and RS20 zoning districts as a use permitted only on appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals and subject to standards in Section 206.3. The ordinance also amends Section 206.3 to include new and revised conditions. The amendments have been recommended by the Planning Commission. The Planning Department concurs with this recommendation, and we've received no calls or comments since first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Could I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council?
I had only received one phone call about this, and I sent to them the ordinance, the people, and I've never heard back from them, so I'm assuming that they felt like this was a good thing to do.
Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. All right, on to the new business. Item 4, consider approval of Tennessee Central Heritage Rail Trail Authority bylaw revisions relative to new authority representation and attendance policy. Sponsors, Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council members, the Trail Authority was established in 2005 by an interlocal agreement between Allgood, Monterey, Cookeville, and Putnam County. And that interlocal agreement established 10 members on this authority. And the 10th appointment in the interlocal agreement and in the bylaws were passed in 2010 by all 4 governmental entities as well for the Trail Authority. But the 10th appointment to this board is appointed by the Upper Cumberland Heritage Association. Well, that association is dissolved, and the Trail Authority is recommending that the 10th appointment now be appointed by Leadership Putnam. Leadership Putnam has volunteered to make that appointment from one of their active members as well. And that's the first item for you to consider related to the interlocal agreement and the bylaws. The second one is an attendance policy, and the Heritage Trail Authority is asking that the bylaws be amended to include an attendance policy that basically says that if a Trail Authority member misses 2 consecutive meetings or 3 meetings during a fiscal year, they will report that back to the governmental entity that appointed that member to the board, just to make the governmental entity aware that that board member is not attending the meetings. And I'd recommend your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council?
Most boards like this do have an attendance policy, don't they?
Some of ours do. I know James had mentioned that some of our other boards that the city has a similar policy to this. Yes.
So they've had problems having meeting
They've had problems with having enough members there to have a quorum established so that they can conduct business. Yep. And that's what's driving the attendance policy.
I've had the chance to work with this through the commission for a number of years, and it's been kind of frustrating to know that sometimes they can't get their business done because of the lack of a quorum. And although this still doesn't have a lot of teeth to it, it's better than anything they've had so far. And of course, we know we've all the government entities have sunk a serious amount of money into this thing, and for it not to go forward because of a lack of attendance. And not blaming the members. Sometimes things come up, but if they can't fulfill their duty as they were and represent as they should, then I think that's probably a good thing. So hopefully that report back will get some folks to be able to attend. I think this is great. I wish it had more teeth, but this is a good step.
Any discussion, any other discussion? Anything from the audience? All right, seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Item 5, consider approval of Tennessee Central Heritage Rail Trail Authority Budget 2011-2012 fiscal year. Sponsors, Mr. Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council members, again, the interlocal agreement that established the Trail Authority requires that all 4 governmental entities approve the Trail Authority budget. Their budget that they're requesting for 2011 and 12 is a total of $28,976. The city of Cookeville would share in that budget 25%, so equally with the other 4 governmental entities. So the city's share would be $7,244 of that $28,976. But I'd recommend your approval as well.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council? Of course, the 4 governmental bodies, Monterey, Baxter, all good.
Monterey, all good, Cookeville, and Putnam County.
Okay. Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. On to item 6, consider authorizing the electric department director to execute a joint use pole agreement with Deltacom Inc. and Earthlink Business Company for the attachment of fiber optic cable. Sponsors, Mr. Tony Peak.
Mayor and council, you might remember a few meetings ago, I brought a very similar agreement to you for Twin Lakes. As the mayor mentioned, this is an agreement with Deltacom Inc. and Earthlink Business Company. It is an agreement to attach fiber cable and associated equipment to our poles on a joint use agreement. This agreement is almost verbatim to the Twin Lakes agreement, had a few words, and Mr. Danny Rader took a look at those. He and I have talked and taken out a few things that they were requesting. We feel good about it. Licensee, as with Twin Lakes, is required to pay any make-ready work if the poles have to be changed out, if adjustments have to be made on the existing lines. And the attachment fee, as with the other cable type agreements, is $12.52 per pole per year. I'd request your permission to allow me to sign that joint use contract.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, discussion from council?
Mr. Peak, on these attachments, how close are these poles getting to be maxed out as far as?
Some of them are already maxed out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there'll be, if I remember correctly, Deltacom Inc. and Earthlink, they're basically a transmission cable company. It's part of a fiber route between Chattanooga and Bristol, Tennessee, coming through Cookeville. They're not going to be attaching to that many of our poles. I think make-ready work was estimated at $43,000 to make those adjustments. So,
And we have to be able to provide space, right? I mean, that is,
yes,
by law, we have to provide space.
yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Peak. On to item 7, consider awarding bid for skid steer loader, Public Works Department. Sponsors, Mr. Greg Brown.
Mayor and council, we recently bid for a skid steer loader. We had 4 bidders. Bobcat of Nashville submitted 4 different warranties for the same machine. We would recommend the 36-month, 2,000 hours for $47,362.13. It's the lowest evaluated bid, and I recommend your approval. And this is a budgeted item.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
We've been talking about the budget for a few weeks now, so that's a,
But it's budgeted for this year, right?
Yes. Yes,
And
the one we're in now.
Yeah.
good. Any discussion from the council? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. On to item 8. Consider approval of emergency purchase of incinerator wall panels for the brush site. Public Works Department sponsors, Mr. Greg Brown.
Mayor and council, our brush incinerator, the panels have deteriorated. We've tried to repair them the past several years, but they do need replacing. We had budgeted for the next fiscal year. After talking to the manufacturer, they're outsourcing their manufacturing facilities, and they're going to have quite a long downtime between when they can supply this, and the price that they had already quoted me might not hold. So we went ahead and ordered them now. The price, including shipping, is $53,500, and I would recommend your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions from council? Any from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, here's part of the meeting where we like to open up the floor to the citizens and/or delegations to speak on any topic they would like to. First, I'm going to ask the council if they have anything that they would like to address. Vice Mayor
I
Epps.
would, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Chief Terry, if you had something you wanted to bring
I
up,
just
go
want
right
to
ahead.
quickly mention that after the last council meeting and the concerns that the citizens had in and around the quarry, that Mr. Shipley asked us all to go back and look and see what we could do to maybe help resolve the issue somewhat. And the two questions that came up consistently for us was the speeding of the trucks and tarping. And we have determined through some research and talking to the Tennessee Department of Transportation, there is no tarping law. Tarping is merely a requirement that TDOT puts on individuals doing business with them. So they make it a requirement and they enforce it themselves by fines and on that company. And the best example I guess I could give would be that if Greg Brown was going to build a road here in town, that could be made a part of the requirement that materials being brought to us would be tarped. Short of that, there is no tarping law. The only law we could find relative to dump trucks and hauling and stuff is that whatever the material is has to be at least 3 inches below the edge of the top of the truck. And that's for asphalt, gravel, or anything
Sand,
else.
anything.
So our guys looked pretty hard trying to find something, and we couldn't find anything. We resorted to talking to TDOT and, how are you guys doing this? And that was the answer we got. The speeding issue, of course, we can address that. And we will do that. But just for informational purposes, we can't get in the ticket writing business for tarping.
Right.
And I'd be glad to try to answer any of the questions you have relative to that.
So if they're going to a TDOT job, then that has to be tarped. That's the only thing.
Yeah, if it's one of their jobs, they make it a requirement.
Chief Terry, can the city pass an ordinance that it requires tarping, or is that, it sounds like we could, because it would supersede,
That
you
would
can't
be-
supersede the state, I don't guess, but is there any kind of ordinance that the city could pass? Just that we're talking about that.
Off the top of my head, I know of no reason why we could not pass such an ordinance for vehicles traveling in the city of Cookeville, but I would have to check the Department of Transportation rules and regulations, because any state law would supersede that, just like Nashville
Right.
tried to pass that ordinance about discrimination, and the state said they couldn't do that because they wanted a uniform system statewide, and we just have to check and see if that would be superseded by by a statewide rule or regulation that our ordinance could not trump. That would be the issue. I'll be happy to look into that.
Mr. Mayor, if you would, last week I had the opportunity to chair the meeting. Of course, we heard from the folks in the Beverly Hills subdivision, and I've spent a considerable amount of time the past week just talking to different administrators here in the city, and just trying to get up to speed, because one of the problems I had was I was just ignorant about all this, and I feel much more comfortable about it. But we have looked into. I have been looking into it, and as I know the rest of the city council has, and actually I was speaking with our city manager, Mr. Shipley, and I'm going to let him go ahead and kind of address some of the things that we've been looking into as a council. So if you would, Mr. Shipley, I appreciate it.
Well, of course, one thing I did was ask the chief of police to go out and start giving tickets to trucks that didn't have a tarp, because I thought it was state law. I think everybody thought it was state law. And I would be very interested in the city, if we can, requiring all vehicles inside the city limits of Cookeville be tarped. I have a convertible, and it ain't fun to be behind one of those. Of course, there's not an 84-pound rock that would come in there, but we have Mr. Littrell attended a conference last week. He did talk to people from the fire marshal's office. We are trying to meet with them to discuss, what I talked to the owners. I talked to one of the owners today at the quarry, and I want to meet with those people from the fire marshal's office, and just to make sure that they can assure me they're doing everything they need to do. Because when you talk to the owner, he says they're up there all the time, they're inspecting. I talked to one resident, Mr. McKinney, that lives out there. He said, could they wet down the rock to keep down the dust? Mr. Elkins assured me they are wetting down the rock. We plan on going up there to make sure that they're wetting down the rock. I don't know, all we can do is ask them to. We don't have any authority to make them do anything. We do have some contact people with the Federal Agency of Mining and Fire Marshal's Office, contact people. A complaint form, if anybody needs it. But really, from the city standpoint, we just don't have much authority. And of course, I think it'd be great for the city attorney to just do a little research and just see if there's anything else we need to do.
Do we need to make that motion to do that, or is that?
You can certainly do that.
Well, I do work without the necessity of a motion. But one thing the public needs to understand, and I can assure everybody that every member of this city council, the city manager, Jim Shipley, and each and every department head is very sympathetic to the plight of these people. But the city of Cookeville is what's called a municipal corporation, and we are very limited in what authority the city of Cookeville is very limited in its authority and its jurisdiction. For example, as everybody knows, that the referendum passed where you could have package stores. The only thing the city could do was work on the zoning to say where those package stores could be located. After that, the state of Tennessee is in complete control, and the same is true with the liquor by the drink ordinance. And the city is just very limited jurisdictionally, and most if not all these policing matters come under the jurisdiction of the state of Tennessee Air Quality Control, the state of Tennessee Department of Mining and Fire, whoever does the blasting and things like that. And those are the people who actually police this, just like the Alcoholic Beverage Commission polices the package stores. And the city just does not, as bad as we want to do it, we just don't have the jurisdiction to do that. But I'll be glad to look and see if there's things we could do, such as the tarping law, although after I said that, I thought, trucks are controlled by the Interstate Commerce Commission and all those Department of Transportation rules and regulations, and it just may be difficult for us to trump those, but I'll take a look at that.
I guess, but the thing is, for me, it would certainly bring a sense of resolution for all the parties involved, both for the business owners and for the folks living in that subdivision. It would, if we can at least do some research and find out if there's anything that we can get our hands on to help folks out, let them know what needs to be done. That would certainly bring resolution. If it may not bring a solution to the problem, it may bring resolution. And that in and of itself, I think, is important.
Well, we can certainly direct whatever we can do. We'll find out what that is, and the council can do that.
Great.
And we'll find out who the proper authorities are for them to contact to make their complaints. And in addition to some kind of governmental action or governmental complaint they file, of course, they also have their private civil cause of action in court if they want to pursue that. So, but we're just jurisdictionally limited on what we can do. But I will definitely do that research, and I probably could not have that absolutely completed by June the 2nd, but I will by the second meeting of June.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Vice Mayor Epps. Yeah, just wanted to know that, or wanted everyone to know that, part of our job is to try to do our best to keep our citizens safe, and we're going to do everything we can in our jurisdiction to do that, and to make sure we exhaust all possibilities to do that and get that done. Yes, ma'am.
Well, my name is Anna Ruth Burrows, and I appreciate y'all stepping up to the plate and making that first effort. I really do appreciate that. And Mr. Rader, I also appreciate whatever help you can assist us with. We will greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Ms.
Ms.
Burrows, can I ask you a question? Have you asked Jeff Jones to see if there's anything the county commission can do on this?
No, I have talked with Jeff, and I'm working on that.
All right. Because actually, the county has much broader jurisdiction than the city does in general.
But there again, if it all relays back to the state.
I know, that's the dilemma.
Because you just said that.
Yeah, that's the dilemma.
Right. So then it would be, I'm going to have to go see the governor. I
Well,
can do that.
I know right where he is.
You do too.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Anderson, I think we have some.
Yes, we have some special guests tonight. I'm going to ask them to stand. This is the Avery Trace Middle School Student Council, the creme de la creme, and our future leaders. These people are going to be in charge of us. Thank you, guys. They came tonight to see Government in Action and the Student Council at Avery Trace Middle School. We do things about raising money, and usually, though, and unlike the City Council, we don't raise taxes. We have a dance when we want to raise money, and then we take that money and turn it back into the students of Avery Trace doing various and sundry things. And I'm very proud of them for coming tonight, and grateful for the 8th graders. They're going to be going on. Why don't the 8th graders stand again? See, they sat in the back of the room. There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks again, guys.
Thanks for coming, guys. We should have had one of them lead the pledge.
Oh, we should have. Ooh, who could have I?
Come back and we'll do that.
Let's do it again.
Come back and we'll do that. Any other comments from the audience?
Let's do the pledge again.
Yes, ma'am.
Katie, feel free to get up and talk, sugar.
Now all of a sudden she's shy.
Yeah. She's been,
Gutless.
She just likes waving at you guys.
every time I mention, does the audience have anything to say, she waves. So I keep waiting for her to get up.
Not say anything.
She's that or trying to just throw me off. Well,
I'm good.
anything else from the council?
Embarrassed.
Anything going on this weekend?
Duck in town.
Graduation.
Yeah, graduation Friday night, Saturday morning, and Saturday afternoon. Everybody be aware of that and be grateful and thankful. When is
Soapbox
the
Derby.
soapbox? What
Saturday morning.
time?
That's fine.
No, isn't the qualification thing?
By the way, he makes money having dances.
He
Well,
does.
now that is the
He does.
truth.
That's true.
That's the truth.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to Nashville this weekend.
All right.
Hey, can you pick up some things for me while you're there? I've got a.
All right. Nothing else? This meeting is adjourned.